Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the VertiMax VIVE podcast. I'm Al Merez. I'll be your host today. I'm really excited to dive into the world of professional strength and conditioning today with our guest, because that's always a major interest for our listeners, who they themselves are typically strength coaches in some capacity, whether that's a high school level, college level, or even in the private sector. So I know many of you listeners, are aspiring to make that pro level at some point. So I'm happy to bring this conversation to you today. And as usual, I appreciate everybody tuning in, joining us from, wherever you are today, and whatever platform you're on, whether that's Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. We try to make this live stream as easy to access as possible. As usual, jump in with questions. Enter them into the comments section. We'll do our best to answer them for you when we can. We've got a really special guest today that we're excited to bring to you. And just so this podcast is going to be hosted into our various podcast sites in its entirety. So if you can't catch everything today, be sure to tune into one of those sites and download it, because as I mentioned, really special guest joining us today, Matt Krause. Matt's a former NSCA Professional Strength Coach of the Year from his time with the Yankees. He's a longtime strength coach with the Cincinnati Reds, and now most recently he's been named the first ever administrative director of the PBS CCS, which stands for the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society.
Yep, that's a lot to say right there.
That's a mouthful, Matt. So thanks for joining us and welcome to the show, man.
Well, Al, thanks for having me. That's why I just say the PBS CCS. I try not to say that whole thing out because it takes a little bit of time to do. But I appreciate it. Listen, you called me the other day and said, hey, is there a way to come on here and talk a little bit and educate some people about, how to become, how to get into the professional strength realm and how to become a strength coach, right? Some people, from all levels on here, and any way I can kind of help to promote the a wonderful, career path. I've chosen it. I loved every second of it, and I'm still doing it. But I mean, it's so I appreciate you having me on here.
No, man, we appreciate you coming. I know there's very few in the world that have the credentials, have the background experience that you do. So I definitely wanted to have you on here and talk about it. So, I do want to dive into your new role as the administrative director. But real quickly, before we kind of get into that, give us a quick background of what got you into strength coaching, strength and conditioning coaching, and then, kind of the path you took to get to where you are.
Okay. Yeah. Great.
I know it's long, so just kind of hit us on the.
Well, listen, like a lot of us coaches at some point, listen, I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, so I always wanted to be in sports some capacity, but you come to that point in the road where that you're probably better off going to be a coach than you're not going to go to the next level. So I played football, baseball, wrestled in high school, and always thought I'd be very interested in college sports because my uncle Jim, he was a football coach at Virginia Tech. He was at University of Richmond. He bounced around. So I remember being a young kid, my parents getting in the car, hey, we're going down to Virginia Tech. And I'm running around, at those games and just being around that kind of atmosphere. And as I got older, it was something like, hey, this might be something that, that I might want to get into. And so I just, you never know what it's going to be. At the time, listen, didn't have a whole lot of money. And I was in the Marine Corps at the time. And my buddy was at East Carolina. So I would drive over. It's only like 70 miles. So I wound up going over there and sometimes. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, I wound up going to East Carolina. I lived there with my buddy and got into their sports medicine program. Never really thought. Had a couple conversations with my uncle. Listen, I wasn't good enough to be like a football coach. I didn't know about it or baseball, stuff like that. But I was like, oh, this is something that was interesting. And I got into their sports medicine program to become an athletic trainer. You just want to help people. At the end of the day, you want to help others. And that's part of the coaching process is, have that, that desire to want to help people. And so I went through their whole sports medicine program, great program. Recommend anyone to go to the East Carolina sports medicine program, and got certified as an athletic trainer. And then everyone's in these like scenarios sometimes, like, you finish your schooling in December, we still have your internship, so you're not going to graduate till May. So you go through the whole curriculum, and then was doing my internship in the morning, but I had nothing to do in the afternoons because as a student trainer, I was covering football, covered men's basketball, you covered tennis and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, you're not really in the program anymore. I was doing cardiac rehab to finish out my background in exercise sports science. And I asked Coach Connors, who was a strength coach at the time, and he's a very well-known strength coach, if I could help out. And I just helped out with the strength program in the afternoons with the men's basketball team. And so at that point, still didn't have the money that I wanted. I wanted to get my master's. And he made a phone call down to UCF and hey, there's a spot down there. They're starting a program and or they're expanding the program at Central Florida. And he's like, hey, if I give the guy a call down there, would you want to be a GA down there? And he wound up making a call and wound up working out, graduated, truck drove down, and I was enrolled and at UCF as a graduate assistant, but not in athletic training, as a strength and conditioning coach, right? So I guess financially, I made the decision to become a strength and conditioning coach because they were the ones who were going to pay for my schooling. So you never know where you're going to go, right? And so that's a short story of it. And I got into UCF. I was a graduate assistant for one semester, and then I wound up becoming the first full-time assistant at UCF, which was good either way. If you're a full-time assistant, full-time, or you're a GA, they're paying for your schooling. So I wound up getting my master's, at UCF. And then while I was there, I was trying to be a strength coach, and I kept calling my uncle, and I was introducing me to the guys at West Virginia, Virginia Tech, different people. I thought I was going to be a strength and conditioning coach in college football. And then, because when I was at UCF, I did an internship, one with the Daytona Cubs. So I would get up in the mornings and I do football, then men's basketball, then drive over to Daytona and help at their home games back in 1999. And then the following year, I did an internship. Well, not really an internship. I helped work some of the mini camps here with the Buccaneers under Coach Asanovich, back in the day. And he let me come over on a Tuesday or Thursday and kind of get a feel for that. So then, thinking I was going to be in college football, Bruce Hamill, who was the major league strength coach of the Cubs, said, "Hey, listen, the Pittsburgh Pirates are looking to do more with their minor league strength and conditioning program. Do you have any interest?" I'm like, no, I'm not going to. I want to be a college football strength coach. But one thing my uncle told me, he goes, never turn down the interview, or at least listen to what they have to say, right? For people that are out there, you don't know what you're going to be doing.
That's right. And so I was like, experience.
So took the interview with the Pirates, who at the time, Carogo, he's now the head athletic trainer with the San Diego Padres. And I drove over. We had an interview, and wound up hitting it off and looked like an opportunity. And so Mark called me back a couple of days later. Oh, actually, Paul Tennell, who was the farm director at the time, said, and they offered me the position to come down. I became the strength coach for the Hickory Crawdads, but they were also trying to create this coordinator position because Mark at the time was like the rehab coordinator, athletic training coordinator, strength, so they were opening.
Did it all back then.
And everybody did everything back then.
Yeah.
So, I was young enough at the time, and I said, hey, if I'm ever making a career change, this is the time to do it, because if it doesn't work out, I'll try and get back into football where I feel like I had more connections per se, and wound up just falling in love with it. I really loved baseball at the end of the day. It's an opportunity to work with, 16, 17, 18-year-old young men and the 40-year-old male athlete at the end. So, you're using all of your skills. When you're working on the college side, you're working the 18 to 22-year-olds to some degree, right? Nothing wrong with that. But being dual certified as an athletic trainer, and I had, gotten my CSCS, I had the United States weightlifting club coach certification. At that time, it was just like this felt like a real natural fit. And you're working with all level of athletes, and they're professional athletes. At that time, you have to realize you're moving into a working relationship and no longer that teacher-student relationship, or like I'm making money, they're making money. We're all there to work for the greater good to help somebody with their career, right? Once you're in the minor leagues, you're a professional baseball player. Yeah. And it's not for everybody, right? And it kind of took to me, and I really enjoyed working with the range of ages and level. And then just, if you enjoy the sport and you get to watch it played well, every day. I got an opportunity to watch, over, 2,500 major league games. I mean, it's fun because now, slightly sometimes frustrating when you coach your kids and you see like a easy ground ball, like, it's good. Oh my God. So, I appreciate,
that's awesome.
I appreciate it way more now than I ever have. But that's the short version. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot that went on in between.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a great example of, the life as a strength coach is you never know what one season to the next is going to bring, and you kind of have to be ready to move around and fly around, and so that's really interesting. And so that's that kind of brings us to settling into a role that's a little bit more stable and kind of like transitioning away from coaches and into that. I know you were the president for the society for a long time, but now you're the administrative director, and I saw that your role says that you are going to continue to drive and expand the PBSCCS initiatives for years to come. And what exactly does that mean, and kind of what are those initiatives?
Well, at the end of the PBSCCS, listen, we are an education society for the professional strength coaches, right? So we've always been just in that realm, but everybody's been in a volunteer. So from when it was incepted by Fernando Montes to now, it's everybody was working, and then we would donate our time to kind of make this get moving. And then, you have a job first, you're there to take care of your athletes. And so what we would do is it was a one-time meeting at every year to help our strength coaches get their CEUs. Right. And then, and now it's expanded. So then we built on a trade show to it. And then we started bringing in some outside speakers, because in the beginning it was just us speaking to, inside the group. And so at the end of the day, we're just trying to expand the education platform for our strength coaches. But the industry in itself has expanded, right? So now you have not just the strength coaches, but you have the mental conditioning coaches, you have the dietitians, you have sports scientists, and they all kind of fall under this umbrella. And so we have everybody that's part of the PBSCCS, right? So, professional strength coaches, but now you have a performance staff. And so, I feel happy over the last 20 years as we created this job creation in this industry, that we're pushing it out there. So we have, these are strength coaches in our society. There's dietitians, like I said, there's mental conditioning coaches and the sports scientists. And what we've learned is over the years, we get all these questions. Hey, what should my 12-year-old do? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm working with a 35-year-old athlete. I have no idea. But I, people think, you're the authority on baseball. And I believe the PBSCCS is the authority on baseball strength and conditioning. But you're not in that youth space, so you don't know. So that's one of the things in this position that we're trying to branch out a little more, because now that I'm on the other end of this, and I'm around the youth space a little more, and I got a chance to meet people like yourself, and I'm coming over to Redline, right? And you see what's going on, and these are parents, right? These aren't certified professionals. Sometimes not at Redline, but I'm saying when I'm at the park, and these are parents, and we're trying to create quality education from the parent coach to the high school coach to the college coach to the professional strength coach. So what we mean by expanding that, we want to provide quality content for all levels of people trying to help athletes, do it in a safe way, with quality instruction. And, there's a big range out there, and so I don't want to just say, our expertise is baseball, but if I went to a youth basketball camp, listen, we want people to do things safe. We want, whether it's hockey, football, or whatever it is, we want to implement things in a safe way. And we want to give parents and anyone who's in charge of that youth space quality information.
So then within obviously you have influence as being the professionals in the industry. So are you bringing other people in to sort of create those programs to where they're reaching out to the youth of the area or coaches in the area to help create a safer environment?
So we partner with the NSCA. They have their SIG, or their special interest group. We've blended it. So now we went from the one event a year, which is the winter meetings, to where we're doing, 2 to 3 different webinars, right? COVID has allowed everyone to jump on these spaces and
exactly.
And we've branched out. So we've done a few different webinars, right? We have a webinar coming up, which is going to be nutrition based, right? It's going to be predominantly our dietitians from the PBSCCS. We'll have a strength coach, but we're also going to tie in mental conditioning coach or a clinical side, because part of this is self-image and nutrition and other things, and the in that space. So, coming up next month, we're going to do a webinar in that space. But that's for all ages. That'll be for the parent, for the youth coach, to the high school coach, to the college trained coach, and to the professionals, right? So,
and then is this all part of helping younger coaches that are getting into the industry to kind of set them on a path to better get educated, get better experience, and get better prepared for when they kind of reach that pinnacle?
Yeah, well, you've answered the questions. We want people to become into the industry. That's for sure. But there's a process to that. So, I'm glad that you had me on for that. So the process is, one, you have to have a passion for it. Step one is have a passion, be a good person. And those are the type of people that we want pushing this way. But then, there's things out there, even on the parental side, if you don't have the education or the exercise science background, to get some type of certificate, right? So they call it in the NSCA, the certificate, the certification process. One is to, learn a little bit about what's going on. We tell everyone to, buy the essentials textbook from the NSCA. You can kind of read through that. They have little quizzes in the back and some other things. But, to start the process to learn a little bit, gives you a little background of the anatomy, physiology, how the body works and different things. And it has drills in there and ways to set it up. Most importantly, sometimes just teaching them how to set up the drills. But if you're a young person, you're ready to go up. If you went through high school and all of a sudden you were a person like me, and you're like, all right, you know what? I'm done playing high school sports. What's next? But I want to be around it. Then you'd want to move into, getting your undergrad or your degree in exercise sports science, right? Or if you want to be in the sports medicine side, you would look for an athletic training program. Right. And now there's also a sports science program. So you want to get into the exercise sports science program, right? And then, do a really good job in that. And while you're going to school, you're gonna be looking for like an internship. And you're lucky these days, because back in the day, internships, you worked your butt off for nothing. But these days, you might even be able to make a couple bucks, in a part-time space as an intern. But no, you have to get yourself involved, right? You got to see, and the reason why you do internships is to see whether or not you like it, right? You have to go get some work experience. And some people are going to get in and find out, this really isn't for me. And some people are just going to fall in love with it. And, then you want to move on and you get an opportunity to go on to a graduate program or become a graduate assistant. For me, it's a great place, because they're going to throw 50 sports at you, well, at least they did back in the day for me. You work in football, you work in baseball, you work in men's and women's basketball, men's and women's tennis, men's and women's track. You have men's and women's soccer. I mean, I took my UCF experience great, because, back in the day, you had all the HIIT programs, the high intensity programs. You had everything was, coming around at the time, right? Olympic lift based programs, ground based programs. The hammer came out there. So I had one team doing this, one team doing this, and I figure out what worked. And then you kind of put it together a system that you like over time. But so becoming a GA or being and now you have these beautiful performance centers all over the country where you might, still get a ton of athletes and they're working, they might be a little more seasonal to where they have football guys coming in sometimes and the baseball guys coming in and soccer coming in, but you're still going to get that same experience. Those really weren't around as much when we were coming through. Now you have more opportunity in the space to either go to a performance center or, work as a GA if that happens for you. But once you become a GA and you get all that work experience, you graduate, you have to get your certification. You're gonna have to get your CSCS or some type of certification. If you want to work in that youth space, there's other ones out there. I mean, I'm going to promote the NSCA.
Yeah.
And then, or through the NATA if you want to be an athletic trainer. And then you have to start networking, right? You have to go out. So while you're being a GA and you're doing your internship, you're going to network. I wound up writing a letter to almost every other Division I strength coach at the time back in the day, asking them for manuals. I got a whole stack of these manuals year-round programs, and I'll tell you what, man, you find people that are willing to help, help other people. Some won't ever send anything back to you, but at the end of the day, people actually put some things in the mail and sent back to me, and I have probably 50 or 60 of these, manuals that I ripped through. And so there's some good people out there that want to help. So you have to start networking. So that's what I did. I wrote letters to people. Now you can type emails, right? I had to write a handwritten letter to people. And then, once you start building that network, and then you're going to start applying for jobs, and then what I'm saying at that point, like we talked about a little earlier, be open, listen to what people have to say, take the interview, even if it's like something you never thought you'd even do, be willing. And then as you become certified, you'll have to get some kind of professional liability. You're gonna have to do your CPR and all those other things. People aren't gonna let you go until you have all these other little, you gotta cross your T's and dot your I's, all the other little things because we live in that type of world. So you're gonna have some type of liability, and then you're ready to go, right? So you have to go out and right, be prepared. And the other thing I tell people, we do these talk is have your plan A, B, C, and D. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to make you are trying to do something that you love and have passion, but you also have to pay the bills, right? So, I wound up, getting like a PE and health teacher certification, right? If that doesn't, I was a substitute teacher. I was, I always maintained my NATA. I mean, my NATA to be an athletic trainer. I'm doing more athletic training stuff now than I was in the past, and you're always learning. And
it's interesting. Luckily today there's a lot more plan B's and C's available to you. Back then, 20 years ago, there weren't sports performance facilities all over the place, and there's a lot more opportunities. Even these, bigger box gyms now are having sports performance kind of training, combine training available to you. So if you are passionate about, sports training, there's avenues that if you don't make it at the pro level or the college level, there's some different ways that you can still stay in the space and do what you love.
Right.
So one of my questions that coming up, say you do want to aspire to be at the highest level baseball coach, like whether it be, pro baseball, pro basketball, whatever it might be, like, is it easier kind of coming through the bottom within baseball and kind of working your way up from internships at minor league levels and kind of work your way up that way? Or is it just as easy to get to there by, becoming running your own college program and then kind of transferring over to the sport, or going through football and transferring over? Like, is there a path that you kind of recommend? Like, if you're a diehard, you love baseball, you want to get into it.
That's one of the questions I used to ask people when in interview process. And I used to ask them, hey, do you like baseball? And they're like, yeah, everyone's question right here. Of course. Love it. Because you don't understand, it's every day. It's every day. And so my suggestion to people is to start off at one of the rookie levels where, baseball is broken into, the 72 games, the 142 games, and then it's the 162 at the major league level. And 162 doesn't mean 162 days. It's really 182 days, right? And then it goes on, and then there's an off season, and then blah, 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 and you go on, right? So there are many people that have said, I love baseball. And then about 50 days in a row, do we ever get a day off? No, it's every day. So when you want to get into pro sports, understand that, and baseball is unique to where you're constantly traveling every 3 days, even if you're in a minor league, or you're on a bus and you're going from city to city. You're not flying everywhere like in the big leagues or in AAA. But so you need to find out if you really like it, and that's why I tell people to start there, because some people, have this different image in their brain until you actually experience it. And then they go from really loving baseball to, I think I'm going to continue to watch it on TV and I'm going to coach another sport, right? So, but there are people that really, really like it, and I love it because it's not just the training of people. It is the mental grind that players go through their piece way more than any of the staff do. But at the end of the day, of waking up every day, I love that there's a game every day. Some people, you're building up to the week and you play football on the weekends, right? Or basketball a couple of days a week. Every day you wake up, and that's the challenge of using all of your skills, is to get someone prepared to play at 100% every single night, right? And then that's what you have to love about it, and being there for those athletes, right? To have that routine and make the adjustments to the routine, but every night there's a game, right? Win or lose, all right? Every day counts, and that's the kind of pressure if you like that, I love it. I like coming to the park every day. Today's a game. There's a new chance to be successful.
I think that's where your athletic training background comes into play, right? Because you get banged up, you get dinged, you get that, that recovery phase, that recovery rehab, getting ready to get back onto the mound or out in the field that next day is important.
Right, and it's important all of them, but yeah, it's sometimes there's a challenge in there, and so if those people, if the player's going to come every day ready to go, then I want to come ready to go every single day, and you give your best effort, and that's what I like about it. So to answer your question, though, yeah, I mean, I would start there, but there are people that have a lot more experience. If you ran your own college program, you might be able to come into this environment now, but I think it'd be very difficult for someone with no experience to walk in the door. I would start at the bottom, find out if you really like it,
Yeah.
And I would go from there.
It's interesting. I saw a little bit of a trend over the last few years where the Lauren Landows of the world are getting hired from a private sector into running the Broncos, and the guys like Mike Barwis that are out there that have their own facilities that end up coming in as advisors and stuff. So it does happen. I know those are you're talking about the best of the best when in that realm.
No doubt.
Okay, here we've got a couple questions here. Let's get to these before we move on. So IT asks, was the process of becoming a GA a competitive process? Meaning, was it saturated with applications, or was there even an application process?
Well, I mean, part of it is part of that networking. So I had someone call over, because yes, one to answer your question, it's very competitive, right? There's a lot of people there's limited of these jobs, right? And it gets limited as you go up, right? At one point in time, there's only 30 of the major league jobs. That's it. 30 of them in the world. You get one, you're lucky to have one for however long. But for the GA, there's it's very competitive. But I had someone call over and be a reference for me, right? To that was in the industry. So my thing to you guys, like I was saying, is do the internship part, or donate some of your time, do a really good job, do all the grunt work, do the things, so that someone, when that one day goes out of their way to do something nice for you, right? Jeff Connors went out of his way, did something nice for me, made a phone call. Now, other people probably called the people at UCF as well, but they're kind of working out for me.
Sure.
But do the internship. Someone's might be working for Al here at Redline, right? Do a good job, show up on time, be there. Come early, leave late, right? Do what you need to do. Clean up. Do the things you need to do. Do a good job of the programming. Follow the program. Don't run off and do whatever you want to do. Just follow Al's guidance, right? And then all of a sudden, there's going to be an opportunity where Al might have to make a phone call for you, right? And so, so part of that, like I said, be knowledgeable, but also be a good person, and put yourself in a situation to where someone's going to go out of the way for you because you went out of your way to work really hard for them.
Cool. Good stuff, man. That's never burn a bridge, right? And so you never know what might come around.
Right.
All right, Brett, here comes a question from Brett. It says, with you being in a strength conditioning role for so long, have you ever felt burnt out? And what did you do to help counter that? That's a great question, Brett.
Yeah, you do. Listen, because it is every day, and you get frustrated. Listen, you have good days and bad days. It's easier. You never get burnt out on a winning team. You get burnt out on a losing team. You're winning, and the team's on a roll. Like, you're looking to come to the ballpark every single day, right?
Yeah. Even
if it's hard and fatigued. Listen, I've always had a good family support system. My wife's been great. That's been helpful because, listen, I have a family. I have a wife, I have kids, and then you got to manage all of these things, and so those are some tough situations sometimes and stuff like that. But I've always had someone to rely on to probably never feel sorry for me, but kick me in the butt and push me forward. So sometimes
it's challenging.
You get that, but you whatever your outlet of stress is going to be, right? So I mean, I've always had a good support system. I've had other coaches, talking about being burnt out. I've had some great conversations with other strength coaches, and I've called them, mid-season and been able to, like, kind of, I don't want to say cry on their shoulder, but, saying that, dump on them, and someone that understands your situation. It's hard to sometimes talk to people that don't understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
So in the industry, I've always, kind of found someone who was my peer to talk to, and just get some advice from them. And, they'll be probably a little more than, understanding to the scenario, and they give you good advice. And listen, at the end of the day, you got to move forward. But yeah, I mean,
I think that's in every industry, right? It's good to have mentors. It's good to have colleagues, people that you can talk to, bounce ideas off of. Then to it's part of life, man.
But if you have the passion for it, you're gonna love coming every day. I mean, yeah, you do get burnt out. I thought at one point in time I did want to switch after about 10 years. I'm like, but you know what? Yeah. At some point in time, you're like, you know what? You just love it. So you got to take the good with the bad. So for whatever industry that you're in, there's going to be, as long as you love what you're doing, there's going to be more good days than bad days, and just find the right support system. That's all I can tell you.
Oh, that's good. For those that are kind of seriously thinking about getting into baseball and heading down that career path, you hit on a couple of things, but like, what are some of the not so glorious parts of that baseball world? Obviously, traveling and the schedules and all that is we hit on that a little bit. Is there anything that might not be so obvious?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, things that aren't, in the beginning, like the pay isn't always the greatest, right? And then, but listen, it's the time. It's the time. So when they talk about being burnt out, it's the time that you're there, that you commit to the game. That you're there early, you're one of the earliest people there, and you're going to be one of the last people to leave, right? Because you have people that in programming that do things earlier in the day, and then you have people that do things post game. Like when you play every day, there's not the off day to work things into the schedule. It's every day. So your day range could run from sometimes noon to midnight, right? Mm-hmm. So it's easy to do when you're on the road because you got nobody else around you. But when you're at home and then you got kids and you got other things going on, and then blah blah blah, and everyone's pulling on you in different directions, you run out of time. So time is your biggest thing that you're always searching for. Right. And trying to make sure you're giving all that. But so that's one of the negatives, but it's also, it's also the positive. I mean, I never really looked at any day. Listen, I was just privileged enough to have that opportunity. So, I mean, I always looked at it as I'm a glass half full kind of guy.
Yeah. Without the bad stuff, the good stuff doesn't mean as much, right?
It's all the same. It's just, that's your job. And all those things can come in. But yeah, listen, so, some people don't like to travel. I didn't mind the travel over time. You perfect it. You want to be great at everything. So, I had a perfect, suitcase all the time. I was always ready to go, and I knew what was in there. And so, like, all the little drawbacks of these little things, you got to find a way to make it a positive, cool. and the whole system, and just enjoy it.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of positives about being a coach. So, for you personally, what's one of the most gratifying reasons or things about being a coach, strength coach or athletic trainer?
Once in a while, you actually help somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's days where you're kind of frustrated. And listen, when you're dealing with professional athletes at that level, they're already good. They're already good. Sometimes you hear the old adage, like in baseball, hey, sometimes just get out of the way, right? I mean, you're already good, but once in a while, when you're going through that grind, and a guy's been battling, he's played 20 days in a row, and because there are still guys in the game that do play every day, right? But looking for days off. But no, there are is that guy that grinds every single day, and if sometimes it's an extra stretch, sometimes it's the extra work, sometimes it's some kind of mobility stuff, to get the guy to where he's feeling good and ready to go, because you don't come in feeling good every single day. Mm-hmm. And those little small wins where a guy might go 0 for 4, but he made 3 great plays in the infield, and then at the end of the day they come in and after the game, and they weren't even sure if they can make it that day, right? But they mentally find a way to do it, and they help the team win a game, whether it's defensively or offensively, and periodically, once in a while, you might get, hey, thanks, Krause, or you'll get like a thank you on a guy walking out the door or something like that, and then those little things
that's awesome.
Kind of make your day, because it all kind of runs together. But once in a while, you get a tiny. It's a thankless job, so don't think you're going to get thank yous. Don't think anyone's walking away from you. Please, that once in a while you do get one.
That's right, man. Well, hey, buddy, I appreciate you joining us, man. That's some really good insights to the world of professional strength coaches and baseball coaches. And so I know you're super busy with everything you've got going on now with the PBS CCA or CCS. And so, for those who are listening and want to kind of learn a little bit more about the society, where can they find some more information on that?
Well, you can go to, hold on. You can go to baseballstrength.com. Okay, that is our the PBS CCS website, and you can get on there and hold on. I don't know what I just did right there, but get on there and learn more about what we're doing, and when we have our events, we will have an event April 10th. Right, that's I talked about. Be a webinar with our dietitians, strength coaches, and we'll have one mental conditioning or clinical a doctor that's going to be on there and help out and come learn from us. And it'll be all different for all age ranges or backgrounds that just want to help out from youth sports all the way to the professional. And I was going to say I appreciate you. Al's allowed me to kind of hang around and do some things over at Redline with them and always be learning.
It's always be learning, man. There's a link there for baseballstrength.org. We've got down there. And again, Matt's on Instagram and he's out there online. So if you ever want to reach out to him directly, you can find him online. He's always out there, always learning, always posting good stuff and just a wealth of knowledge. So again, Matt, really appreciate you for joining us, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you.
All right, man. Well, that's a wrap for today. Go out and have a great day, everyone.